Okay, hey everybody. This is my demonstration on how to do 3H. So I have already done the following steps. Um, I already downloaded the 3h.tar file, and then I untarred it, and I can't remember. It may actually have the name Spring18 3h.tar. That might be the right name. And then I CD'd to 3H, and then I CD'd to a directory called Sandbox, and I copied all my source code into Sandbox. So those are the steps I've already performed. I downloaded a tar file, I untarred it, I went into the 3H directory, which is what happened, the directory that's immediately inside the tar. Inside 3H, I went to Sandbox, and I copied all my source code into Sandbox. And so if we go to the Sandbox directory, for you guys, you'll get just makefile, and but for me, I've copied everything in. And I set up a little something. Let me just undo what I did. Yep. Okay. And so now, if I do an ls and 3h, there's a bunch of directories, one of which is Sandbox. And then there's several of these run scripts, run all, run one with image. So I'm going to say run one with Hank1. And I ran that one test, and you can see it compiled everything, and then it told me I passed. So if I go to the Sandbox directory, first off, let's go to the Hank1 directory. There in the Hank1 directory is a stress test, and if we look at the stress test, it's a pretty simple stress test that's opening a file and then just saving that file. So it should be just puddles, and there's a checksum associated with it. And it's very important the checksum, your checksum has the exact formatting I have. I'll show you what happens if that's wrong in just a sec. And then here's this file that says pass, and that actually just got generated. And whenever you call run1 and you pass the test, it creates a file in there called pass. So the point being, when you do this script called run all and you run all the tests, if it's passed something before, it doesn't have to run it again, and that makes it so that you can just say run all over and over again and then just work on the tests you haven't passed. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the Sandbox directory, and in my, I don't want to show off my source code, but if I fgrep filtered fgrep for checksum and filter.c, I get that. But I have a version of this that makes an incorrect format. Instead of checksum, it says csum. So I'm going to copy that in. And so now my code, my filter.c, and its checksum routine is going to output something with the wrong format. And I want to show you what it looks like when you get things wrong. So I'm going to say run one Hank. Oh, so I gave it the wrong name. I said run one Hank. I said cannot locate user Hank. But now I say run one Hank1. And it says mismatch for Hank1. You have this, but master has that. Now really, I've got it right. 9, 9, 149, 149, 83, 83. But because this formatting here is not correct, that's what is getting tripped up on. So if the values here were different, if this wasn't a formatting issue, if I had had 7, 151, 81 or something, then I might want to look at the image. And so there is a way I can do that. I can say run one with image and give it Hank1. And now if I go to the Sandbox directory, it made hank1.png, and there it is, and it's just puddles. Now, the run one with image script assumes that you have PNM to PNG installed. And so if that doesn't work for you, then don't run the script or install it or comment out that line of code. But that's how it gets PNGs, is it calls that utility right there, PNM2PNG. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my sandbox where my code is. By the way, I really encourage you guys to be backing up your code regularly because you'll be making probably a lot of changes. I know I re-implemented the solution this weekend, and when I ran all the regression tests, I had to go make a couple changes to my code to fix various corner cases. I suspect you guys will as well, but just really encourage you to make backups. So now I've fixed the checksum, so I should be formatting it right again. And if I say run one, hank1, then I get a pass again. Now, there are more directories than there are tests I want you to pass. So, you know, some of these were submitted and they've got Blender, or there was one that I thought was a great test, but it made images that were really big, and I thought it would crash people's virtual machines. So not all of them actually have to be passed. And so there's a file called valid list, and these are the tests that you need to pass. And so if you go and say run all, then it'll just start running everything on the valid list. There I've passed the test A Corso, there I've passed the test A Dalcher, there I've passed the test Amal Enur, Andy 1, Andy 2, etc. Now, if I were to Control C out, which I just didn't say run all again, you see when I passed A Corso, it made something called pass in there. And so if I say run all again, what's going to happen is it skipped a lot because it gotten passes previously and then went to Andy 3. So my advice is the following, that you say run all hank1 and then hank2, and then let me get a recommendation and get passes there, because it's going to ferret out issues with compile failures, it's going to ferret out issues with checksum failures. And let me get one with an exception. And then I think this is a good one to run. Say run one J Fuji. And that's one that has an exception in it. And so then, you know, if you've passed hank1 and hank2 and J Fuji, that means your checksum works, your exceptions work, you're in pretty good shape. And then I'd say just start doing run all, and when something fails, just Control C out and fix it, or let run all run to completion. At the end, it'll tell you how many you've passed. And then your goal is you just keep doing it and keep taking the tests one by one until hopefully you've got them all passed. So let's bring up the prompt. Here's the tarball that I downloaded. Here's the 3H prompt. And so first off, it says it's due on June 8th, and I have it in quotes because I'm not going to penalize you if you turn it in after June 8th. That said, I want everything in by Wednesday, June 13th. If it comes in after the 13th, after 6 a.m. on the 14th, it will not be accepted. So that's a 0 if it comes in after Wednesday, June 13th. It's worth 11% of your grade. Again, you're going to run the 3 t-tests. Here are the directions. You know, that you untar it, you copy your source code in the sandbox. What do you submit? You want to submit all the code in your sandbox. Also, do a run all, and at the end it's going to say how many tests you passed and give me a screenshot of that. And we're going to grade it on Xdev. So if you get a big pass on your local machine, it doesn't work on Xdev, you're going to get docked. Scoring rubric, if you get all of them right, you get 11 points. 1 to 5 right, there's 9 points. 6 to 10, or 1 to 5 wrong is 9 points. 6 to 10 wrong is 7 points. If you get between 11 wrong and half of them wrong, you get 6 points. Less than half is 5 points. If you do this run one with image, it'll make images. I've posted all the correct images on my webpage. Andy 1 is tough, and you guys will work through it and have to figure out what's going on. I do encourage you for that one to like draw a picture and see what's going on. So like draw the pipeline of how all the modules connect together. With Shrinker, if you do a Shrinker on an image that's 3 by 3, some of you may want to create 2 by 2s. The convention that for the tests and the checksums, the correct outputs is actually that 3 by 3 would create a 1 by 1, since 3 over 2 is 1 with integer arithmetic. Since my previous prompts are ambiguous, I actually think if you read really closely, you would decide it would be 1 by 1. If you were doing 2 by 2, hey, sure, but this is the time you're going to have to change it and do that rounding down. And it will come up and you will get failed tests if your shrinker is making a 2 by 2 instead of a 1 by 1. If it gets a 3 by 3 input, or any odd input, you want it to get the smaller size and not the larger size. And here's this issue with the pass. And so what this says right here is that, for example, I have passed tank 1, and so if I call run all, it's going to never try to run that test again. And what can happen is you can modify your source code to fix one problem, but you create another. And if where you create another problem is in a test that's been passed, well, it won't try to run it again. And so that third note says you should do remove */pass before you submit and do a run all again, and just make sure that none of your code changes have changed anything else. And be careful anytime you use remove and a star. So that's what I wanted to say about the project, and questions you can post to Piazza or ask Brent. But I just thought this little demonstration might be helpful in getting started. Good luck, everybody, and I'll see you on Friday.